Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We are here again for another session of Tuesday Talks with Tonia. And today we are delighted to have our special guest, Ms. Candace Hillman. She's the Executive Director of the Augusta Partnership for Children, a nonprofit organization here in the city of Augusta. Welcome, Candace.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So today we're going to talk about nonprofits, programs, and pointers. And the reason it's titled Programs and Pointers is because a lot of times people rush to start a nonprofit. And I know everybody has something to offer. There are certainly enough need to go around where we can support it, but you have to know kind of the right nonprofit. How do you structure it? All of those things. And sometimes people don't do their due diligence to figure out how to go about that. So Candace is, in my eyes, an expert. As I worked in the mayor's office, and people come to me weekly wanting to start a nonprofit and wanting information, and I would refer them to go and see Candace. So if you can pass the Candace test, then maybe you can have a nonprofit. So delighted to have you here. So Candace, share us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, again, I'm Candace Hillman. I am the Executive Director for Augusta Partnership for Children. I've only been the Executive Director there for about 3 years, well, 3.5 years now, but I have actually worked for the agency for 13 years. And so I have learned a lot via just working there. And when I say working, meaning a paid staff, but I've actually volunteered with the Augusta Partnership in some way, shape, form, or fashion since I've been in the Augusta area, and that's been since 1999.
99. I moved here. Hey, I think we moved here in 99. I did.
Oh,
I've been here
okay.
20 years.
Okay, yeah,
Yep,
so have
20
I.
years.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about what the partnership does and how you're structured as a nonprofit.
Okay. Well, the Augusta Partnership for Children, we are again a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We seek to exist to provide services to improve the lives of children and their families. And so we don't really have a lot of direct service providing going on from our office, but we have partners in place who work throughout the community, Richmond County community, to provide services for children and families. And so we provide support in some areas. And then when we do provide a service, it's usually when there's a gap. No one else in the community is providing that service. And there's a extreme need in terms of data for something to be done to help with issues that are negatively impacting children and families.
And tell me a little bit about how you guys are structured. So there are several nonprofits under the umbrella of the Augusta Partnership for
Yes.
Children because that's kind of that connector. Like you said, you don't provide direct services. However, your partners do. So how does that structure work?
Well, we are a Georgia Family Connection designated site, and so we are that site for Richmond County. And because we are a Georgia Family Connection site, we are actually partnering with other organizations who are doing exactly what we're doing. We're trying to improve the lives of children and their families, but we're also trying to create systems changes. And we're trying to do that so that it will create a thriving community in the end.
Tell me a little bit about how you guys get most of your funding.
Well, for right now, most of our funding comes from federal grant dollars, some state, some local, and then we have a ton of donors now. I won't say ton of donors, but we have more donors than we've had in the past. People who are really hearing for the first time who we are, what we do, and they're really supporting our work in the community.
And that's one thing that I think people don't understand, especially from a grant writing perspective. You can become a nonprofit. However, if you're expecting to get grant dollars, you have to have a grant writer. And a
Yes.
lot of times people are not equipped to A, handle that, or they're not equipped to provide a financial, you know, donation to somebody who's a grant writer.
Right.
And that's very key because they don't just give what I've told people when they've come to see me, they don't give this money willy-nilly.
Right.
You have to have a specific program, you have to have measurable outcomes.
Very competitive.
And a lot of times, right, it's very competitive because there are tons of people going for those same dollars. And if you're not really equipped to do and manage that, then 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get that
Yes.
support.
And it's very important. And I'm happy that you said that too, because a lot of times people are so busy trying to push the work efforts of themselves or what it is that they do. Um, and we get too busy to do the research to find out who else in the
Right.
community is working to
Right.
improve this outcome,
Right.
or if not in the community located next to me, what about in the next zip code,
Right.
And so we need to do more, I guess, collaborating
Collaboration.
as opposed to the duplication of services,
Mhm.
because I know that duplication of services would be one of the reasons why funders probably wouldn't fund certain programs,
Mhm.
because if they take a look and you're close enough to collaborate
Right.
together, and
Right.
their first question is probably, well, why
Why?
aren't they working together
Mhm.
if they have the
Mhm.
same goals, they
Mhm.
want the same outcome
Mhm.
and results?
Mhm.
So I think that's really important, that people learn to collaborate, and not just to collaborate on paper, but to really collaborate their efforts. Because I think when multiple agencies come together to help children or families, I think the reach is greater,
The bigger
and
impact.
yeah, and the impact is
Mhm.
going to be much
Mhm.
stronger. So
Mhm.
I think that's very important.
It is, and that's one of the things that I guess kind of frustrated me with having conversations with different people, because I'm like, okay, the partnership does XYZ, and they have these partners, collaborative partners that do kind of what you're trying to do. Why don't you go and partner? But to me, it seems like sometimes people are in it for the wrong reason, or people are in it because they want to be kind of the chief and not the Indian. But this type of work, you have to be the chief Indian and whatever else it takes
Yeah.
to get the results that we're looking for. When I look at the stats, and you can share more about our poverty level, like where we are as a city versus the state average, what does that look like?
I can't remember the specific details, but I do know that in terms of Richmond County, we are really, really just falling behind in terms of making sure that our families are self sufficient,
Mm-hmm.
that the number of children who are living in households that are receiving food stamps, you know, we're really falling behind. We have to do something to make sure that our families are just improving themselves, not just,
Getting handouts.
right, getting a handout, but being taught, being educated,
Mm-hmm.
so that they're learning
Mm-hmm.
how to get
Mm-hmm.
ahead as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to get by or
Right.
getting by.
Absolutely.
Because getting by will just only do that, and that's just to get you by to the next handout.
Right.
But I think it's very important that people realize the importance of getting ahead,
Mm-hmm.
because once you start to get ahead, you're going to want to keep getting ahead, and you will probably reach a level where it will be easier for you to get ahead, because you're increasing your family stability
Mm-hmm.
as you are being educated, as you are being introduced to different people, as you're just being introduced to different settings.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those things are mind changing, and they're just really necessary.
They are. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday. There's an organization that's fairly new, that sits on Gordon Highway helping people start over.
Oh,
And we
that's
had
good.
the very conversation, and that's really what they do. They help
Hmm.
people start over. So people, whether they need food, whether they
Hmm.
need clothing, whether they're getting a new house and they don't have any pots, pans,
Hmm.
whatever household items, they provide all of that for free. And they do an intake, and they
Hmm.
do the follow up, and they tracking everybody that they're touching. And we were talking about that very thing, about a lot of times the programs aren't really designed to help people get out of the poverty.
Right.
But you guys have several programs that help people get out of poverty. So talk about the poverty simulation as well as the Bridges Out of Poverty program that you do.
Okay. Both the poverty simulation and Bridges Out of Poverty, they are both part of what we call our Family Self Sufficiency Initiative. And so that was something that was started by Dr. McKenzie back in 2014. And so that's something that we are trying to continue in Richmond County. The poverty simulation is basically, it's a simulation, it's experience
Right.
designed for individuals to simulate what life might be like if they lived in like a typical family receiving low income or
Mm-hmm.
food stamps. It could be families that may or may not have transportation. Somebody may only have a part-time job, but they may be caring for multiple children and other family members. And so it's basically to get people to have a little bit more empathy and be a lot more understanding when you're coming in contact with people who may be from an experience, or who
Right.
may be experiencing something like that. You never know where people come from. And so I don't think the important part is knowing where they come from. It's just that you have to be sympathetic and
Right.
empathetic with
Right.
people when there's a need.
Right.
And so I think the poverty simulation really does that, because after the actual simulation event itself takes place, there's like a dialogue and discussion, debriefing that takes place. And it really allows people to talk about what they felt, how they felt, if they were stressed out. Did they have to make decisions that were really against their morals and their values? But, did they really do this because they
Right.
were trying to survive?
And
And
your
so,
target audience is mostly business community,
yes,
other nonprofit communities,
yes, people
government
working in
agencies.
social services as well, because I think a lot of times, when it comes down to receiving like a social service or providing a social service, if you're on the providing side of the table, it's easy to say, next, you missed your
Right.
appointment,
Right.
or you don't have all of the proper documentation, so next person. But you don't realize what that person may have had to go through
Just to get there.
before they
Yeah.
got there,
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think it will allow individuals who are really providing direct services to be more empathetic. And then in terms of the business um, leaders in our community, I think it will allow them to think about how we're spending our money, and maybe what types of policy changes can take place so that this group of individuals can be better served, better assisted. Because at the end of the day, none of us know from one day to the next
Right.
if we are going to be
Right.
on the providing end of the table
Right.
or the receiving end
Right.
of the table. And so, whichever turn we have, we want to make sure that we're providing the best service, and we're also getting the best service.
Absolutely. And so the Bridges Out of Poverty is for a specific group.
Yes, so it is really catered towards like the business, government, city government, commissioners, people who can actually drive policy changes. Because what we're trying to get people to realize with Bridges Out of Poverty is that poverty is not an individual or just an individual problem. It's an individual, it's a institution, and it's a community
Right.
problem. And so people have to see it all three ways in order to better understand it. Somebody who has grown up in generational poverty, that's a person who may or may not have been exposed to somebody modeling a specific behavior, or going out to get a job, or finishing school, because
Right.
you just
You
don't
never
know
see it.
what types of things went on in that home.
Right.
Maybe somebody didn't finish school because they needed to work to provide
Right.
for the family.
Right.
And because they couldn't finish school, that may or may not be the reason why they can't get a job that pays like a better living wage. And so
Right.
it's really important that people see it all three ways, and to again be more empathetic when working with individuals and making policies and procedures that impact their lives.
And so you guys do a number of things that I've been a part of because I am on the board. One of the things is making sure literacy, childhood literacy, reading at grade level by third grade, the teen maze,
Yes.
the abstinence piece and portion, especially from the STD rate for young adults.
Yes.
So you guys do so many of those programs. What is the most significant program you think you guys direct? I know that's hard.
Really
I
hard.
know that's hard.
There again, all of our programs are significant in my opinion. So I guess I'll take it from, the perspective of our programs that are working with mothers who have infants or unborn babies up until age 5, because I was reading something that talked about the first, I think it's like right over or above 1,000 days of a child's life is very
It
important,
is.
because that shapes some of what they do, how they learn,
Right.
the decisions that
Mm-hmm.
they make. And so I would say that would probably be most significant, because, like through our Parents as Teachers program, we're making sure that our parents have that relationship, that they receive the resources that they need, that they are having a bond with their children, and so that is just that I don't know how to even express that. I mean, I
Yeah.
just really like that program, and just the whole idea that, a parent is their child's first teacher.
Absolutely.
So, if they don't learn anywhere else or anything else, they're going to learn a lot from their parents.
Absolutely. That's kind of the stage, the foundation.
Right.
So that sets the stage for the rest of their life. The
Absolutely.
first 1,000 days, you think about the words, and a lot of times when children get to school, if they can't comprehend, it's because sometimes they haven't been talked to at home.
Right.
They haven't been read a book.
Right.
They haven't heard music. So different things that shape your child's, future begins, like you said, at home.
Right.
The teen maze is always awesome, and
Yes.
people always want to make sure their children attend that. So, talk about the teen maze and what the importance and significance of it is.
Okay. And so this is perfect timing. So
Yep.
Tanya's talking about the One is Too Many Teen Maze, and that's actually coming up
Mm-hmm.
on Saturday, October 12th. And it's going to be from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Richmond Technical Career Magnet School. And so basically, it's just a life choices game. Um, teens who come there, especially this year, because we've kind of revised it, revamped it a little bit, so it's going to be a lot different from how
Mm-hmm.
it's been in years past. But teens will get to experience what it's like to go to a party where there are drugs offered, where there's underage drinking, where there is all types of risky behaviors taking place. From that party scene, they will go to an accident scene, and this accident is basically what could happen if somebody engaged in texting while driving, underage drinking and driving, using drugs, all of that. And it's really something that I think they walk away with, really thinking in the back of their head, like, I didn't realize,
Mm-hmm.
that something like this could really
Mm-hmm.
happen. And from that scene, they will go to the emergency room, where they will actually see a simulation of what happens in the ER when somebody is brought in from a really bad traffic accident. And then from that scene, it goes to the funeral
Mm-hmm.
scene, and you get to hear about stories of parents who've had to bury their children due to, the engagement of risky behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to the jail, the court scene, where they, hear about what happens, how you're sentenced,
Yeah.
what happens, just the whole process,
Mm-hmm.
fingerprinting,
Yeah.
having your mugshot taken,
Mm-hmm.
being in a jail cell. Because as you know, we have a real
Yep.
jail cell, and we
Yep.
have a real casket too
Yep.
for our funeral scene.
Yep.
And then after that scene for this year, we are going to do like a breakout stage or breakout session, where teens are going to be able to go to 3 different areas to do 3 different activities. And all of those activities are in relation to risky behaviors due to sex, STDs, and STIs. And so it's going to be a lot different from how it has been.
Yeah.
We're hoping to have just as many teens or more that have participated in years past. We're really, really excited that we've made changes, because
Yeah.
we've tried really hard to keep it, keep its strength and not dilute the
Right.
message.
Right.
And so it was really difficult to figure out what we were going to change,
Yeah.
what we were
Yeah.
going to keep, and maybe
Yeah.
what things we're going to add. But this year, I'm really happy too that we are going to have someone there from the DEA, and they are going to talk about drugs and this whole thing about prescription drug
Prescription
abuse.
opioids and yeah.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
so we also have somebody who is going to be there who is going to have like live drugs on hand to show parents. And so this is something that the parents are only participating
Yeah.
in, not any of the teens. And I guess I'm so excited about this part because in years past, we've always had something for the teenagers
Nothing for the
and
parents.
nothing really of substance for the parents. And so this year, we're really trying our best to make sure that they're engaged, that they're in the know, and that they walk away feeling like it was not a waste of their
Right.
time, just,
Right.
there to drop their kids off.
Right.
Also, we're hoping to get some, I guess, better feedback too from parents because we've revised our parent survey. So parents are going to be able to participate in one of our community surveys to help drive some different or positive feedback for the purpose of our Continued Change Initiative grant.
Okay. And that's another thing. So you guys, it's so much that you do. This October you have Children's Week.
Yes.
So that follows up Children's Week, correct?
Yes, it does.
So talk about Children's Week.
So this year, Children's Week has been done a little bit different. Back in March, early March this year, we hosted like a portion of Children's Week. We called it our spring edition of Children's Week. And so that was really successful. We had some activities that were a little bit different from the norm. But then as we thought about it, and even in the planning phase, we were like, it just won't be the same if we don't have story time in October and if we don't have the legislative breakfast in October and then the teen maze. And so we were like, we're just going to have to keep those things, in October. And so we're ending up with a spring and a fall Children's Week this year. And I'm thinking it's something that the staff really, really likes because, of course, we were thinking of like more outdoor, hands-on type activities for the spring, and then more of those educational reinforcement type activities for the fall. And so I'm thinking that's something that's gonna be, around for a while. So we'll see how it goes.
And I think it works. You give people options. March, school's getting ready to get out. October, school's just in, not long. So you get both. Also, you guys do a lot of fundraising events. One of them is the wine tasting.
Yes.
And the silent auction, right, that we do every year, but we've changed that as well.
Well, we've changed only to figure out where its final resting place will be. I do feel as though it will probably be moved back to November because of some of the other shifts that we made. Because I don't know if most people realize that, from August all the way up until December, we were busy doing something. And I mean, it had us all worn out. We'd all have to have like some time off or some just break time just to get ourselves back together because it started with like our membership council meeting. Then it was Children's Week. Then it was the legislative breakfast. Then it was the wine tasting. Then it was the annual dinner. And so it's just like we had something going on just constant for each month. And so it really didn't do us or give us, I guess, the exposure that we needed in the community throughout the year. So I think that was one of the reasons why we came up with trying to shift some things around because we wanted people to be exposed to our work throughout the year, not just in the last quarter of the year, because we want to do more. We want to have something going on each month. We want to have something going on each quarter, but we were just trying to gauge the impact and in the workload that goes into that because it appeared that everything that we did it was heavy loaded at the end. So we wanted to change that.
And talk about that from a nonprofit staffing point. How many actual paid staff do you guys have?
We have 15 paid staff. Um, Not enough staff to do the work that we do. And so with that said, it's very difficult being a nonprofit and having a very small staff with such a broad or great reach. Um, because most oftentimes, we're funded, or those staff positions are funded
Right.
through federal dollars.
Right.
And so they dictate what
You
can be
and can't
done
do.
and what can't be done.
Mhm.
And so, and with that being said, most oftentimes, that leaves us as a group to figure out those other duties as assigned.
Yeah.
And so I think that
Other duties
that
as
has
assigned.
been one of the most challenging things that maybe I've had to deal with, in terms of getting people to understand, how it works, what it means by an FTE, what that's all about. And so I think that maybe after this year, maybe people will be in a place where they better understand what it is, how that works. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are doing exactly
That's right.
what we are supposed to do.
That's right. That's right.
And I get that from Dr. McKenzie. I am not going to jail.
Absolutely.
Orange is not my color. So,
Orange is not the new black.
No.
Right.
No.
And I think a lot of times that's what I'm afraid for people who don't understand how that works. When, especially with federal dollars, you can't do what you want to do with that money. You have to do what they tell you to do,
Right.
how they tell you to do it. The funds have to be allocated a certain way.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times people feel like they can do what they want to with the money. And that is not the case, because there's coming a day when they're doing an audit, where they're coming in and they want to see all your records, all your receipts. And if you can't produce, somebody is going to jail.
Absolutely.
And when you thinking about the nonprofit space, people don't understand that part.
No.
Even with local donors, you have the community foundations, and university has a foundation. Different places have foundations that they do give money locally, but those are hard to come by because there's such a saturation in the market for people out here looking for money from these organizations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have to make sure that when you're presenting your product as a nonprofit, that the people that you're reaching out to understand your mission. You have to have things to back up your mission, and you have to have the right programs in place, because they don't just support anything and anybody.
Right.
And I think back to Potash and how they came alongside, but you matched what they were wanting to do in the community. They were specifically looking to do something where it related to food and children. And so you guys fell right in line with that. And it's hard though to find that kind of match.
Yeah. That was like our greatest blessing, because we had, for maybe many years, we had looked for funding that would support the work of the Family Self-Sufficiency Initiative. And I mean, along came Potash. I mean, it is really because of Potash, in terms of where we are now, just how we've grown, how we've been able to provide all of these trainings, the poverty simulations. I mean, had it not been for Potash, oh wow, I am just grateful for Potash. And everybody's like, Potash, like what is Potash?
Right.
Because that was just a term that we always used around the office. Oh, well, Potash is funding this, and we can do this because we have the dollars from Potash. I'm like, they're like, Potash? I was like, yeah, don't worry, just thank God.
Exactly, just thank God. And that's one of the things too, connecting people to the right people, to the right resources. George Sneed was very instrumental in making that happen for us. And it's always a blessing when you can connect the dots, when you can put pieces of the puzzle together.
Definitely.
So in wrapping up, we have about a minute left. What would you tell people who are out here wanting to start a nonprofit? What roadmap would you give them?
Well, you really have to do your homework. This is not easy work. Not easy work. It may look easy from the outside looking in, but it's really a tough task. But I will say it's a very rewarding task, because at the end of the day, when you can walk away from work and you can say that today I was able to connect this person to this resource, or help this family So I think it's rewarding, but oh man, you have to do a lot of homework.
Yeah.
And so just finding out who else is in the community doing what it is that you are seeking to do. And it's nothing wrong with partnering with people. I think the more,
Absolutely.
the merrier.
Absolutely.
It actually cuts the workload, and you probably can get more funding
Mhm.
if they see that you have a
Absolutely.
true collaboration.
Absolutely.
So those are just, I think, two things that I would recommend, to anybody who is seeking to become a nonprofit, and just doing something different. Don't go after the same typical after school programs,
Right.
or you want to have a program that's gonna, just, I don't even want to get into all the details, but yeah, just don't do the typical programs.
Right.
Come up with programs that are not in existence. Do something that no one else is doing that is going to benefit, children and families.
Right.
Look at the data. We
Yes.
have so many negative hits right now with data. Start there.
Yeah.
Do your homework there. Come up with a program that's going to address one of those negatively impacting issues,
Right.
for children and families. And so that's all the advice that I have.
How can people reach Augusta Partnership for Children?
Well, we're online at www.augustapartnership.org. And then we're also on Facebook, and it's Augusta Partnership for Children, Instagram, Augusta Partnership for Children. And then if you just want to give us a call, you can give us a call at 706-721-1040. Sometimes I forget that phone number. Line. And I'm even willing to accept phone calls and help people if necessary. So you can call me directly. My number is 706-721-7415.
So that is it for this evening, talking about nonprofits, programs, and pointers for those in the nonprofit world as well as those who want to get into that world. So we will thank Candace Hillman, Executive Director of Augusta Partnership for Children, for joining us and giving this wealth of knowledge. And we'll be seeing you guys in 2 weeks. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Good evening. I hate